When a person does not know that the Lord is the only dearmost object, then he is in the conditioned state of life. And when one knows perfectly well that the Lord is the only dearmost object, he is considered to be liberated. There are degrees of knowing one's relationship with the Lord, depending on the degree of realization as to why the Supreme Lord is the dearmost object of every living being. The real reason is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jivabhutas sanatanaha. The living entities are eternally parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The living entity is called the Atma, and the Lord is called the Paramatma. The living entity is called Brahman, and the Lord is called the Parabrahman, or the Parameshwara. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha. The conditioned souls who do not have self-realization accept the material body as the dearmost. The idea of the dearmost is then spread all over the body, both concentrated and extended. The attachment for one's own body and its extensions, like children and relatives, is actually developed on the basis of the real living entity. As soon as the real living entity is out of the body, even the body of the most dear son is no longer attractive. Therefore, the living spark or eternal part of the Supreme is the real basis of affection and not the body. Because the living entities are also parts of the whole living entity, that supreme living entity is the factual basis of affection for all. One who has forgotten the basic principle of his love for everything has only flickering love because he is in Maya. The more one is affected by the principle of Maya, the more he is detached from the basic principle of love. One cannot factually love anything unless he is fully developed in the loving service of the Lord. In the present verse, stress is given to focusing love upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word kuryat is significant here. This means one must have it. It is just to stress that we must have more and more attachment to the principle of love. The influence of Maya is experienced by the part and parcel spiritual entity, but it cannot influence the super soul, the Paramatma. The Mayavadi philosophers, accepting the influence of Maya on the living entity, want to become one with the Paramatma. But because they have no actual love for Paramatma, they remain ever entrapped by the influence of Maya and are unable to approach the vicinity of Paramatma. This inability is due to their lack of affection for the Paramatma. A rich miser does not know how to utilize his wealth, and therefore, in spite of his being very rich, his miserly behavior keeps him everlastingly a poor man. On the other hand, a person who knows how to utilize wealth can quickly become a rich man even with a small credit balance. The eyes and the sun are very intimately related because without sunlight the eyes are unable to see. But the other parts of the body, being attached to the sun as a source of warmth, take more advantage of the sun than do the eyes. Without possessing affection for the sun, the eyes cannot bear the rays of the sun. Or in other words, such eyes have no capacity to understand the utility of the sun's rays. Similarly, the empiric philosophers, despite their theoretical knowledge of Brahman, cannot utilize the mercy of the Supreme Brahman because they lack affection. So many impersonal philosophers remain everlastingly under the influence of Maya because although they indulge in theoretical knowledge of Brahman, they do not develop affection for Brahman, nor do they have any scope for development of affection because of their defective method. A devotee of the sun god, even though devoid of eyesight, can see the sun god as he is, even from this planet. Whereas one who is not a devotee of the sun cannot even bear the glaring sunlight. Similarly, by devotional service, even though one is not on the level of a jnani, one can see the personality of Godhead within himself due to his development of pure love. In all circumstances, one should try to develop love of Godhead, and that will solve all contending problems. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So these are words spoken by the Supreme Lord. He is speaking to Brahma. In this verse, the Lord is telling, Aham Atma, I am the super soul of every individual. We are all individual persons, and inside our heart, the Supreme Lord is seated as Paramatma. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishto. I am seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Super soul. And also, not only the Supreme Lord is seated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, he is also Atmanam Dhataha. He is the director of all the souls. He is seated as the director. He directs. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani maya. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is explained that Krishna as Paramatma is directing the wandering of every living entity. He is directing the wanderings. So here it is said, I am the supreme director of every living being. He is the director. And the dearest, Preshtaha, Paramatma is the dearest to everyone. How is that? First of all, we should understand that our body is very dear to us. For every person, body is very, very dear. What is the proof? As soon as there is some danger for the body, immediately the attempt is to protect the body, to safeguard the body. Immediately, the attempt is there. That is because the body is very, very dear to us. To each person, his or her body is very dear. Now, why is the body dear to each one of us? That is because inside the body, there is the spirit soul. The spirit soul. The spirit soul is a part of the Supreme Spirit. The spirit soul is part of the Supreme Spirit. Therefore, the presence of the spirit soul, the part of the Supreme, is what makes the body very dear. What is the proof? That as soon as the soul leaves the body, Nobody is interested in the body. It is simply a lump of flesh, lump of matter, that's all. Nobody cares for the lump of flesh or body if the soul is not present. The soul is not present. Dead body, nobody cares for a dead body. But the same body, when there is living spark inside, it is so very dear. So, the presence of the spirit soul is the cause why the body is very dear. And the spirit soul itself is dear because of the presence of Paramatma. The soul also, without the presence of the Paramatma, the soul is actually useless. Because the soul, each one of us, we are helpless. If we don't get help of Paramatma, we cannot do anything in this body. We are completely dependent on Paramatma for every single thing. We take for granted, just like we move our hand. How do we move our hand? It is because of the arrangement of Paramatma, that there is a whole mechanism that's working. That mechanism is driven by what is called as prana vayu. I've explained this many times earlier. There is a kind of current circulating in this body that energizes every part of the body. And because the Paramatma is keeping the circulation of the pranavayu, all the parts are working. The heart is working, the lungs are working, the liver is working, the brain is working, the senses are working. Every part is working because of the pranavayu. And that pranavayu circulation is by the grace of the Paramatma, by the arrangement of Paramatma. So it's Paramatma who is making this body work. And therefore we are utilizing the body. We are within this body and we are utilizing the body. So, only because of Paramatma are we able to utilize this body. Are we able to do something with this body? Because of that, the body is very dear to us, because of the presence of Paramatma. And that Paramatma is the director. And therefore, it is said here, Atmanam Dhataha Preshtaha is also very dear. No? Because if the body is working, then we have interest in the body. If the body doesn't work, then nobody is interested in the body. It is useless. So, the body is very dear because the spirit soul, am inside this body. And the spirit soul is dear because of the presence of Paramatma, the supreme, the super soul. And here it is said, people are wrongly attached to the gross and subtle bodies. This attachment for the gross and subtle body is a mistake. Because the real source of affection is the supreme, is the super soul, is the Paramatma. Paramatma is the one who is really very dear. And therefore, the Lord is telling, they should be attached to me only. People are wrongly attached to the gross and subtle body. Gross body is this physical body. And subtle body is the mind within. Even the mind, that is also working because of the presence of prana. Without prana, even the mind will not work. Mind will not work without the presence of prana. So, people should be attached to Paramatma. Now here in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining that the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, is the dearest in both the conditioned and the liberated states. There are two states of existence. Our normal condition or general condition is we are in the conditioned state. That means we are under the influence of the illusory energy. We consider the body as the self, and we consider our real identity as spirit soul, that we are not aware, we are not so much conscious of it. We think in terms of the body only, body or mind. And this is the conditioned state where even though we are not the body, we are utilizing the body, or we are acting as if I am the body, and we are carrying on our activities in ignorance about who I am, what is my real self. In ignorance, we carry out so many activities. Only when this body does not work do we begin to think in terms of who am I? Only when the body doesn't work. Otherwise, we take it for granted that I am this body. So, in the conditioned state, it is the state of ignorance, illusion, influence of Maya. And the liberated state is when one is enlightened. One is aware very clearly, I am not this body. I am separate from this body. So, both in the conditioned and the liberated states, Paramatma is the dearmost. In the conditioned state, because the Paramatma is animating this body, therefore the body is very dear to us. Everyone is attached to the body, his or her body. So, that is the conditioned state in which actually it is Paramatma who is dearmost. Because Paramatma is maintaining this body, is making this body work. And thereby the body becomes very dear. And in the liberated state, one is aware that Paramatma is the real person inside this body. And he is the director, he is the master, he is the facilitator, he is making everything happen. So that knowledge is there, that understanding is there. But then, even though the Lord is the dearmost object of everyone, still, knowing the relationship of oneself with the Lord, there are different degrees of realization. That is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna says, all living beings are Krishna's part, amsha. And what kind of amsha? Jiva bhuta sanatanaha, eternal amsha, eternal part. Always a part, eternally a part. And the part is such that there is a connection. It is not a separable part. It cannot be separated. You or I or any person cannot be separated from Krishna. Always connected with Krishna as his eternal part and parcel. Parcel means inseparable. But inseparable does not mean that we are identical in all respect with Paramatma or with Krishna. No. There is a distinct relationship of the part and the whole. Just like this finger is part of the body. The finger is called finger only if it is connected to the body. Supposing this finger, some piece of this finger is cut off and it is lying, the piece is lying somewhere, some piece of flesh and bone. There is no value. It is not regarded as a finger anymore because it is not connected with the body. Similarly, we as spirit soul, because of our connection with Krishna, only we have an identity. We have a particular individuality only because of our connection with Krishna. And that connection is eternal. Sanatanaha. It is eternal connection. And that is the reason why the Lord is actually very, very dear to us. Because of our connection with Him. And this connection is explained in the scriptures as a connection of love. It is not a connection merely of dependence. No, it is connection of love. The Lord loves every part and parcel. And He is expecting reciprocation. He is expecting reciprocation. So in forgetfulness, we are wrongly showing affection and attachment for this body or the mind. But really, our affection should be directed towards Paramatma, towards Krishna, towards the Supreme Lord in the heart. So that is what is being instructed here. People, dehadir yat krite priyaha ato mayi ratim kuryad. Ato mayi ratim kuryad. One should be attached to Krishna. One should have affection for Krishna. What if somebody does not have affection for Krishna? Then his love is frustrated. Because of the love wrongly directed towards this body or the bodily extensions. We just don't have love for this body alone. We develop some connection, some extension of this body. As a man and woman combine, husband and wife, and then the combined form gives rise to children. Dehapatya kalatradishu atmasainyeshu asatswapi. Deha begins with, I am this body, or the body is very dear to me, and then extends to another body, generally the male and female combine, and then there is children, offspring, and then there are relatives. Like this, the bodily conception expands, extends. And then the extensions of the body become also very dear. First the affection for the wife, then affection for children, then affection for relatives, related to the children or the wife or whatever. Like this, it extends. Extends more and more and more and more. So that extension of love is seeking the real love which is meant for Paramatma, meant for Krishna, meant for the Lord in the heart. But instead of directing the love towards the Supreme Lord in the heart, or Paramatma or Krishna, if one directs the love to the body and bodily extension, then the love is frustrated. Love is frustrated. Love is never fulfilled. Love is never satisfied. One keeps on extending, expanding to family, then community, then nation or nationality or international conception of humanity. Whatever expansion one may do, even to the extent of expanding one's conception of all living beings are ultimately Brahman. Even to that extent, one expands one's feeling of love. Still, if the love is not directed towards Paramatma, Krishna, of whom we are a part, our love will remain incomplete. Our love will remain frustrated. So, real love can be experienced only if the love is directed towards Paramatma, towards the real person inside this body, the real person of whom we are a part. So, this is the correct understanding, and this can be developed only by Bhakti Yoga. This love cannot be developed by other yoga systems. Other yoga systems may be helpful in understanding our true identity as spirit, or even the identity of the Supreme as spirit. But to approach the Supreme Lord, the example is given by Prabhupada that the eyes and the sun, this eye what we use for seeing, and the sun are very intimately related, because without sunlight the eyes cannot see. Now, the warmth of the sun is available not only to the eye, which utilizes the sunlight to see, but available for all the parts of the body, the warmth of the sun. But the eyes cannot utilize the warmth of the sun if the eyes are unable to see the sun. If the eyes are unable to see the sun, then the eye cannot utilize the warmth of the sun. But the other parts of the body, they can utilize the warmth of the sun even if they are not able to see the sun. Not able to see the sun. Still, the warmth of the sun is available. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, if somebody tries to approach the Supreme Lord as Paramatma within the heart, except by bhakti, one cannot even really approach the Lord in the heart. The Lord in the heart remains supreme unknown, superceived. He cannot be approached because he is so very tiny. He has entered into the Atma. Atma is very, 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 very small. 1/10,000 part of the upper point of hair in size. Atma. So that Atma, the Supreme Lord enters as Paramatma. So Paramatma cannot be seen, cannot be approached except by bhakti. By bhakti, what happens? One is directly able to actually approach the Supreme Lord, because of the service one renders to the Supreme Lord. Because of service. You see, to serve the Lord need not necessarily mean that we should be able to see Him in His feature as Paramatma. In His feature as Paramatma, even if one is unable to see the Supreme Lord within the heart, still one can serve the Lord. One can offer the Supreme Lord a flower or a fruit or any worshipable object, something we can express our worship to the Supreme Lord with the understanding that that same Supreme Lord is seated in my heart as Paramatma. He is present externally in an easily approachable form as the deity. He is present as the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This vibration, sound vibration of Hare Krishna is Krishna, is the Supreme Lord, is the Supreme Lord in the heart. He is the same Supreme Lord, Paramatma. He is seated in the heart. He is directing. So, with this knowledge, a devotee only, and this knowledge is only for devotees. This is not for non-devotees. Non-devotees cannot understand how the Supreme Lord is simultaneously present in the heart. He is also present as the holy name. He is also present as the deity. He accepts service even though we are not yet qualified to see Him in a spiritual form. Still He accepts service. When we chant Hare Krishna, He is accepting our service. We are vibrating the tongue and producing Hare Krishna. So Krishna is present in the form of the transcendental sound on our tongue. So this is inconceivable. It's inconceivable actually. The transcendental sound is appearing on my tongue. I am just vibrating. Like any other ordinary sound I am vibrating. I am not making any special effort to differently vibrate Hare Krishna. I am not making any separate effort. Just ordinary movement of the tongue. Hare Krishna. And Krishna is present. Fully present. He is accepting the service. He is blessing. He is giving mercy. He is extending His mercy. Just because I chant Hare Krishna. So this is only because of Bhakti Yoga. It's only because of Bhakti Yoga. There is no other way to approach the Supreme Lord as Paramatma in the heart. Now, whom we should direct our love. That's what is being said here. We should direct our love towards Paramatma, but then Paramatma is unapproachable. Except through bhakti, Paramatma is unapproachable. So, easy way of approaching Paramatma is through chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or even the deity in the temple. Or even the picture of the deity. Even if you keep a picture of the deity and approach, bow down, offer some food or offer some tulsi leaf, that is also accepted by the Supreme Lord. That is the mercy of His pure devotee. Actually, picture cannot be worshipped. What the Shastras say is you should worship the deity. But because we have so many limitations, To be able to worship the deity, so many rules and regulations are there. So the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, has made it convenient for us that even though we may not be able to worship the deity, we can keep a picture of the deity and we can worship that picture. And because Prabhupada has directed us, therefore Krishna accepts. Krishna is very dear to Prabhupada. So Krishna accepts on Prabhupada's direction that you worship the deity in the form of the picture of the deity. You bow down in front of the picture. You offer some food. And in that way, you can render service. So what does service do? Service awakens our original love. That's what service does. Because we are all part of Krishna. We have a relationship of love for Krishna. We have forgotten. So reviving that relationship is through service. So that service is possible through bowing down. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This is the most confidential knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. And this most confidential knowledge is very easily available, is practiced. Manmana, Krishna says, think of me. So how do we think of Krishna? We chant Hare Krishna. In that way we think of Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna. Bhava mad bhakto, we become devotee. How do you become devotee? By rendering some service. By chanting his name, by offering him some food, by bowing down before him. Madhyaji mam namaskuru. We bow down in front of the picture or the deity of Krishna. We bow down. That is the opportunity for us to render some service. Mam namaskuru. Madhyaji, worship. Worship also. The primary form of worship in this Kali Yuga is to chant Hare Krishna. This is the primary form of worship of Krishna. In the form of his holy name, he has appeared. So we can chant and we can hear. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is actually worship of Krishna. Chanting and hearing the holy name of Krishna, especially in the form of this Hare Krishna mantra. This is the way of actually worshipping Krishna. Madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi. We will definitely reach Krishna. We will go to Krishna. We will revive our relationship with Krishna by this method. So, simple method, Hare Krishna. So, that is being explained here, that the Supreme Lord is the super soul of every individual. Because of him only this body is dear, or the soul is dear, or anything is dear to us. But really we should not be showing love or attachment to the gross and subtle body. Ultimately, we should direct our love, our attachment to the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, who is in the heart, who is also present in so many other forms for us to approach him. And then our love will become satisfying to us. So I'll stop here. Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.